Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, unfortunately, we lost in the Stanley Cup Finals for the second time in the last few years as we lost to the Carolina Hurricanes. Just the team could not get enough for itself in Game 7, and unfortunately we ended up losing. Like, it was a kind of back and forth series for the most part, but in Game 7, unfortunately we just could not find our offense really that early in the game. We gave up a couple early goals, and then we had to basically chase the game for the rest of it, but it was still really good playoffs for the most part. We did end up also losing one player to retirement, that being Narena, so unfortunately he has decided to call it quits, which is kind of good, I guess, for our cap space situation going forward, but at the same time it does suck because obviously he was one of the better players here over the course of this franchise mode. But you can see we had a pretty good run in terms of depth scoring. A couple guys had some bad plus minuses in the last few games of that playoff run though, like Kolar's was -6 through the playoff run, which is not ideal, so obviously some things to tidy up a little bit going forward, but I think this team should be still pretty good next season. It just really depends on the drop-off we get from guys like Ristolainen, who is still going to be playing at the age of 39, which is kind of insane, and Kolar's, who is also getting up there in age now. He's 35 at this point in time, so both those guys are probably going into their last few seasons here. Obviously, we are really close to the end of this franchise mode regardless. And then from a defensive standpoint, I guess McLeod's kind of like that next generation player that could make this team really good this upcoming year, or maybe he won't do enough. He had a really good playoffs as well, 19 points as a forward/defenseman. I don't really know what we want to use him as in the future years. I feel like obviously offense is probably the best spot for him. But since we lost Narena to retirement, maybe we use him as a defenseman this upcoming season because he is an offensive defenseman after all. So we'll think about what happens with that. Probably I'll still run him as a forward, I think, just because or else guys like Hutton and Petterman might not get as much ice time as they actually deserve and that type of thing. But I think we should be still a good enough team because we do have the goaltending. We still have a good defensive core. It's just all about re-signing the players that we have to this offseason, which is going to be a little bit pricey, I think, in a way. I hope that we have a good chunk of cap space because, for instance, we do have to bring back, if we go to all expiring here, we do have to bring back Kolar's, who is a pending UFA. He's going to be obviously one of the most expensive ones. However, since he's 35, maybe he doesn't want as much. McLeod's an RFA, so at least he's an RFA, but we still probably have to pay him some big bucks. Robertson's an RFA. Petterman's an RFA. Ristolainen's a UFA as well, so we will have to re-sign Risto. I'm hoping he's not asking for too much because obviously he'll be on the decline probably throughout the season. Malak's a pending UFA, stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we can afford to bring everybody back, but obviously I'm not too sure on how much cap space we are going to actually have. So there's basically that. There was no comments in last episode, interestingly enough, after our Cup Finals loss. So let's already get right into the draft and see what we're able to snag up for draft prospects. I don't remember actually if I pinned anybody first and foremost. Let's actually take a look at that before we hop into the draft so we know what we're picking up. But I honestly don't really care too much about this draft as much as the past years. Oh yeah, there was these two guys that I pinned. Walker McCollum, who looks like he could be something interesting. And then there's a low lead that's supposed to go maybe in the first round / second round in Plekanec. So maybe I take Plekanec, to be honest, just because he's guaranteed to be a low lead. There's not really much else to this draft class, so I honestly don't know if we're going to get really much in it. The most important thing about this episode, obviously, is that re-sign stage and kind of maintaining our roster going into next season. So without further ado, let's hop into the draft in 2045. I think we only have another 3 seasons of this. So we have 45, 46, 46, 47, and 47, 48. And then I think we're at the end of the series, so we don't have a lot of years left to win another Stanley Cup. So hopefully we could do so. And if we don't, it's not the end of the world because obviously it'll be exciting just to do like a recap at the end and see who did what for us throughout this franchise mode. So let's take a look at this year's top 5. Even though we're late into the series and we won't see these guys' entire careers, still would be kind of neat to see what goes first overall and all that type of thing. So Florida with the first overall selection is going to select Hummel, who is only a 78 overall two-way defenseman. So this draft class could end up being maybe one of the weaker ones because a 78 for the first overall pick is kind of low. Now he is actually a top 6 defenseman as a 78, but most of the time you see like 80 to 83 overalls going first overall. So if he's a 78, I just feel like this class is not going to be anything crazy. Hopefully next year is a little bit better, but this is probably one of the weaker classes. Is Kintar or Kitnar? Yeah, it's probably pronounced Kitnar. He goes to the Rangers, 77 overall. So yeah, it's another pretty low one considering he's only listed as a depth forward. So Yeah, I don't think this class is going to be anything too special, which means we're probably not going to get something crazy in this draft class, but it's something that will basically be for that next generation team once this franchise mode ends, so to speak. Because obviously, if we could go past 25 years, I probably would go past 25 years, but since we can't, we will never know how good these players actually are. Dahl goes third overall. He's also only a 78, listed as a depth forward. Pardal. What a name. Interesting. Yeah, this is probably one of the weaker classes we've seen for these elite potential players. There's a 76 overall medium elite grinder going to Detroit in Pat Lindsay. Interesting. I don't think I've seen a medium elite grinder too often, so we'll see if this guy ends up being anything special for the Red Wings. Maybe he'll just take too many penalty minutes. Hard to say. And finally, Montreal at number 5 is going to select Vigilante. Yeah, it's probably Vigilante. It's not a French last name. Riley Vigilante, okay. Yeah, not really the craziest top 5, because literally all these guys I would say are pretty much like a little bit below average medium elites, like barely top 6, or they're listed as depth defensemen and stuff. Apparently Vigilante is actually a top 6 as a 77, but I still think this is probably one of the weaker top 5s we've seen so far up to this point. All right, let's simulate to our pick at 32. Hopefully we can find a way to get back to the Cup Finals again next year. And I just saw Plekanec went one spot above our pick. That's the guy I was looking to get. He ends up going to the San Jose Sharks. So I don't even know if we're going to get a good first-round pick in this draft class. But Plekanec is a grinder, which is interesting. So he's a lowly grinder. He would have been pretty nice considering he could play both left wing and right wing. But unfortunately, the Sharks take him before our spot. Anything else interesting about this first round of the draft class? Looks like a pretty basic draft. No crazy steals other than that. Lowly, there's a medium elite offensive defenseman going 16th. That's a decent steal there for the Nashville Predators. And Trevor Lee. He can play both sides, which is kind of nice. So, useful player there. Aside from that, top 6 forward at 70 overall. Another medium elite that went 11th in Smolinic. Yeah, this is it's an okay draft class, but it's not going to set the world on fire. That's kind of an interesting one, though. Vancouver drafted a guy named Bure all the way here in 2045, so could be the great-grandson of Pavel Bure. He's a 72 overall medium elite, so kind of neat. All right, not the craziest first round, but can we find a good player with our selection is the question. Because I wanted Plekanec, but now I don't even know who the heck I'm going to take in this round. Because there is this guy who could be elite, but there's no guarantees on that. He is listed as a gem, so maybe I'd take a chance on him, but he really doesn't look that great. So I don't really know if he would be the best selection for me. There's also Keith Kreider. Oh man, maybe I should take a timeout since we don't know who we're going to take yet. Let's go call a timeout. Just so that way we can kind of get a little bit better of a look at this first round here. So Keith Kreider, it looks like he's going to be better than another defenseman, but I honestly don't know if he's just going to be a medium 4 or not. There's also Slaney, who looks kind of mid. Medium 6 guaranteed in Jakimovs. Ooh, okay. I didn't realize his attributes last episode. 2 years out. I mean, I don't know if he'll make it before the series ends, still being 2 years out, but he's got some nice attributes. And he plays center too, which is actually a spot of need when you think about it, because if Risto retires, we do need another more center prospects. So I think Nikolai Jakimovs is going to be our selection here. Even though he's just a guaranteed medium 6, he's probably going to be a solid overall out of the gate. Unless for some reason Chung is better, which I don't know if he would be. No, he's pretty much like a 65 overall, my guess, based on those attributes. So I think Jakimovs is probably going to be like a 70 plus at least. So let's go with Nikolai Jakimovs, and hopefully he develops into be something decent before the series ends. He is a 71. Not too bad. He is a sniper as well. How good is his face-off attributes? 72. It's not terrible. Shooting's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's an okay first-round selection. I didn't see him in last episode whatsoever, but I think that's a good little one just in case we do lose Risto. Maybe this guy generates enough growth that he could end up making our lineup in these last few seasons. So I'll take that. Let's simulate to our next pick at 65. I don't really know if we're going to get too much else other than that. But let's see if there's any steals. Woodworth, damn, medium elite left wing playmaker going to Buffalo. There's another medium elite in Rene. Okay, there's a couple of steals in this draft, but there's also a bunch of just mid players like medium 9s and medium 6s. Low 6s going second round is not a great sight. Bell was a good steal there by the Ducks. Interesting, Norm Bell. Yeah, okay, so there are some steals in this draft class despite it being weak. Because Tukio is also a good steal there for Boston. Alright. So maybe we could actually find something decent still at our spot. But obviously, our scouts didn't really do the best of jobs in finding steals. There is a low 6 here in Franklin Barney. Interesting. It's my childhood in one player name. When you think of it like Franklin the turtle and then you have Barney the dinosaur. God damn. I don't know if I'd take him. High 9s are kind of interesting sometimes, but he is only 19 years old. Or he's already 19 years old, I should say. There's Rammer, who's a low 6. Let's see, is there a low 4 and Schaefer. A lot of these guys really don't look that great. Isbister, medium 9. Like, a lot of these guys might say 3 years out, but I don't know if they actually are that good. Hey, there's a guaranteed medium 6. I might as well just take this guy because he's got the best potential. Now, he is the furthest away from making the NHL, though. That's the only thing. Maybe I should just go for one of the medium 9s that are like 3 years out. Was that a high 9 3 years out too, or no? Yeah, it says he is. So he's got to be at least like a 60-something. But if he's 3 years out, he could maybe make it before the series ends, but I really doubt it. It's either him or we go with Barney or Pushkarev maybe too. I don't know. Let's just go for the high 9. I don't know. High 9s to me are better than medium 9s. And that medium 6 is 5 years out. So let's go with Felix Licht here with our second round selection. And he's at 66. Wow, that's actually a lot higher than I anticipated. I thought he was only going to be like a low 60. But 66 high 9 is kind of intriguing. Obviously not the best potential in the world. But he could be something decent. Yeah, I feel like this guy could probably pan out. If like we had more than 3 years, maybe this guy would make it as like a bottom 6 option at some point. Alright, let's simulate our next pick at 98. See if we could find anything else in this draft class. But I really doubt that we're going to find too much more here. Hey, there's a guaranteed medium 6 still here in Lebda. He is 20 years old though. He is 3 years out though. Because he's a 20-year-old. So maybe we should just take him. There's also a low 4 in Erskine. I doubt he has any X factors as a low 4. Let's just take Lebda because he's got the best potential. To be honest, even if it doesn't make it before the series ends, it's not the end of the world. So, Milan Lebda, welcome aboard. 66 is a good starting point. Maybe he could also become a center for us before the series ends. If not, he would be technically on the next generation teams if he develops. Let's simulate to 131 here. I'm just going to try and fly through this draft because I want to make the right selections, but at the same time, it's not like we're finding too much. Like, there's already bottom 6 forwards supposed to go in this round here. There is a guy named Dadonov who is 17 years old and medium top 6 as well. So, since he's got the best potential here, let's just take him. Might as well. 50 overall, yeah, he's definitely not going to make it before the series ends, but he has the potential to become something down the road. So, there is that. Let's simulate to 164. See if we can find anything in round 5. Yikes, medium backup, huh? Teufel. Ralph Teufel. And he actually looks like he's got a good, solid overall to start, but he's 4 years out. I mean, we could just take him anyways. Maybe he makes the AHL before the series ends. Let's just do it. I honestly don't even know at this stage, so 60 overall. Not too bad for a 17-year-old, so we'll take it. Yeah, this draft class is probably not that great anyways, so yeah, like there's medium 7s and stuff like that and medium bottom 6 forwards. I really don't expect us to make any good selections here down the road, but let's see if we can find one here. Maybe Franzen's a low elite. Andy Franzen, he doesn't look that great, but he looks like he could be a low elite, so we're going to take a chance on him. So he's 6'5", 204, so at least he's a big body regardless. Boom. Andy Franzen, low top 9. Yeah, I don't think we're going to end up finding any other good selections here, but that's okay. That's okay. Low 7th DGs. Yeah, this is probably one of the weakest classes we've seen. Probably. Alright, our last pick of this draft. Can we find any steals here? Maybe this defenseman. Maybe this defenseman. He is 3 bars low elite. He's probably not going to make it before the series ends if he is even a low elite, but let's take him with the second last pick of this draft. Boom. Low top 4. Damn, I was hoping he'd actually be a low elite. Matty Pikkinen. Alright. So not the strongest draft class in the world for sure. We did get some okay potentials early on and stuff like that, but honestly don't even know if we'll see any of those guys before the series ends. But Jankomov's, I think, is probably the most enticing. Licht could be a solid player as a high top 9, but I'm not too sure on what he's going to grow like. So We'll see if that ends up being an okay class for us or not, but we're now at the most important part, as I mentioned, the re-sign stage. I really hope we could afford to bring everybody back, because we also got to bring back our NHL head coach, so that's a very important thing, is getting this head coach back, because this head coach has been a pretty good fit for us, I think. So we're just going to give him as much money as possible here to come back. Aiden Nielsen as an associate. I don't know if I'll be able to get him back as an associate because he wants a head coach job, but we will try and get him back as well because we want to have a good coaching staff going into our last few seasons here. So let's see if we can get them both back. And then we do still need a new assistant coach because our assistant coach did retire in last episode. Did we lose any scouts last episode? I don't even remember, to be honest. So I honestly don't even know if I care to replace the scouts that I'm missing. We do have to sign these guys back up, so let's get these guys signed. And then, yeah, like the re-sign stage, like I said, is going to be a lot of money spent probably on... I feel like Risto's money should go down a little bit, but I'm not too sure on how much he's going to demand for. Kolar's is probably going to still demand a decent chunk. McLeod, at least since he has RFA status, we don't have to give him a long-term deal yet, but we probably should because he might be a UFA in the last year of this franchise mode, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So it's important to get a lot of these guys locked up when we have the chance to. Hopefully we have at least like $50 million in cap space to spend, because if we have like a low amount of cap, it's going to suck, because I don't really want to lose anybody on this team, especially guys like Risto, who should be here right till they retire. So let's see, Hammerlick. How many other scouts do we got? Setzinger. I think we only have a couple more, maybe. Duffy? Nope. Scott? Yes. And that's the last one I think that we need to resign, maybe. Yes, because Shea Weber did not need a contract. Perfect. All right, re-sign stage. How much money do we got to spend, and who is it going to be going to? $49 million. Okay, that's not too bad, but it is still maybe a little bit lower than I was anticipating. Obviously, if Staubitz and Noreno were still playing, we'd be in a tougher cap situation. I think we're already going to probably sign Jankomovs to his ELC. Maybe. Yeah, I think I'm already going to sign him to his ELC. We might as well at this point. Get him into the AHL. I could already give guys like Lebda contracts and all that, but I might just wait a year to see. Lebda is already 20. That's the only problem, so we might want to take a chance on him already, too. You know what? I think I'm already going to take a chance on Lebda since he's already 20 to get him into the AHL team, so boom. We'll do that. Licht. Licht is AHL eligible, too, but I don't know if I should sign him yet. Let's go to our phase first here and get some of these younger guys signed up here. At least some of them are just going to want two-way deals, so that's going to be easy. Carlotti might want a one-way. Yeah, he does. Okay, all these guys are probably going to want one-way contracts, so I'll come back to them in a second here. UFAs, let me go to the bottom of this list here. I'm going to let go of some of these prospects that aren't going to pan out, especially Rammer, because Rammer's not going to pan out. Slaney is a medium 9, 64 at 19 is kind of low. I know he has potential to become something. He was a second-round pick, but he's only a grinder, too, so I'm just going to let him walk. Hartman is a medium elite. He's only a 64 at 21, so there's a good chance that Malachi Hartman doesn't become much. But since he has elite potential, we will sign him anyways. Kudobin is a 68 at 21 is not too bad either. Former 6th-round pick, damn. Does actually have some decent shooting categories. Like, he could be a good AHL scorer, but he is a grinder, too. Maybe I'll sign him since he's got a good overall. We'll sign him. I probably should let go of some AHLers to make room, right? Dingle definitely needs an ELC. We'll sign him up. Boom. I'm going to let go of, I think... I'm going to let go of Ashton. And I'm going to let go of Zhitnik. Just free up some room in the AHL. And then maybe I'll let go of a defenseman too. Segal was in our NHL depth defenders, so we probably should hold on to him. I don't know what the AHL defensive core looks like, so I'll come back to those guys in a bit. Aside from that, though, the big ones are obviously Kohlers and Risto. I don't need to bring back Langlois, because I probably will sign Bergforce to his ELC, but we do have multiple elite goalies already in the AHL. Bergforce is probably going to end up being scratched because he's the worst of the bunch, 67 at 22. But since he has the potential, we'll just sign him anyways. Even if he doesn't play, he'll still get a chance to at least be that third-string goalie if there's any call-ups and stuff. Aside from that, though, Kolarz and Risto, these guys, what are you wanting? What are you wanting at this point? Kolarz only wants a 1-year deal. All right, that's actually not too bad with me. Doesn't have a lot of organizational interest, but he is going to take 10.55 million of our cap space. I think I'm just going to give Kolarz it because Kolarz deserves it, and we'll see if he'll accept that. I could have probably jumped down his money a little bit, but I want to hold on to him, I think. Ristolainen's another one. What does he want? He actually wants a 2-year deal, has barely any organizational interest, so there's no way I'm able to drop this off. The only thing that kind of sucks is he wants multiple years. I kind of have to give him what he wants here because that organizational interest. If I give him a clause, though, that only just adds value to the contract, doesn't to the organization. I might actually have to talk to him and get that organizational interest a little bit higher. Normally, I don't do that type of conversation in this game that often. What about Stillman? What does Stillman want? You know what? Stillman's cheap depth option. We'll sign him back up here. Enroth is a depth option, maybe slash bottom 6. He wants a 2-way deal. You know what? You got that, Enroth. You got that. What about Seagal? If they want 2-way contracts in their depth, literally options for our team or bottom 6 options, we'll sign them up. I mean, it's better to have that depth in case. What about Ackerstrom? Ooh, Ackerstrom wants a 1-way deal. Well, unfortunately for Ackerstrom, we got to say goodbye to him because there's no way I could give him a 1-way deal as a minor top 4 defenseman. 78 career games. Did he win a Stanley Cup with us? I don't even remember. No, he did not. But let's say goodbye to Thomas Ackerstrom. There's just no way I'm paying him a 1-way deal. No way. All right. So the RFAs here, those guys are going to cost a good chunk. Maybe I'll qualify a bunch of these lower end kind of guys because we can. Because those guys will cost us not too much regardless. I wasn't going to bring back Hansen, but we might as well just bring him back. We'll qualify Petterman as well. Qualify Robertson. And McLeod's the one that I want to kind of give a long-term deal to if I have the opportunity to do so. Malak, what does Malak want? Because he was in the AHL all last year. He only wants 1.2 million. The thing is, I don't really have the roster space for Malak as a third-line scoring forward. I'd have to play him back in the AHL again and just keep on doing that. I feel like that's not a great idea, but I honestly might hold on to him still. Anyways, just to have some depth options in case that we could call up. He could end up getting claimed on waivers at some point too, but that might not be a bad idea. But what does Risto want again? Let's see. What is it? 6.2 is not bad. I could just give him the 6.2, but I kind of want to sell him on organizational interest a little bit more, so that way maybe we could talk him down a little bit. So let's enter negotiation with him. And let's try and let's just go in as a neutral. Let's just go in as neutral, not as a charm. Let's talk about the organization and try and sell them on the organization a little bit more. Right now, your organization isn't first choice, but I'm willing to hear you out. Team status. Being a hopeful team, we're on the rise, looking for players that will make a real impact. Hear me out on how you can be a pivotal part of our journey, our market. Let's go team status here. Being a part of a contender is a significant factor in my decision. It's crucial to me that the team's ambitions match mine. Persuade player to change their preference. It's risky. I don't really want to persuade him on this, I don't think. What about our market? Can I talk to you about our market? The pillar of the small market isn't lost on me. Its importance aligns with what I'm looking for in an organization. Risky. Oh, man. I don't really know if I should. Because if I risk, does his organizational interest drop down? I don't know. I'm going to just try and persuade him on Albuquerque. Because apparently it says, while playing in Albuquerque, you'll be part of our close-knit community. The connection and impact you can have here is truly unique and significant. That's huge, isn't it? Let's try it. Oh, his organizational interest dropped even more so on that? Oh, boy. Let's, wait, when did I even click? Did I talk to his contract? Let's see. Let's talk about the 2-year deal. Can I just end this conversation here? Oh boy, I didn't realize it was going to actually lower the interest. I probably should just give him the money. Oh, his organizational interest actually jumped up from that conversation, which is kind of surprising because it said that he didn't care about what I persuaded him on. So, hey, maybe we could actually knock him down a little bit now, but I don't think it's enough to knock him down a lot. So let's just give Risto what he wants. At this point, I don't really care if I'm giving him 6.2 million. He's the captain on this team. He needs to be here till he retires. Some people might not agree with $6.2 million, but to me, he's very important. He's not just a player that plays on the ice. He's also a player that works on behind the scenes, good leadership, all that type of thing. So let's see if those guys accept Kolarz and Risto, because obviously those are the big important guys to bring back here. So it looks like we might have got some of those coaches back, I think. Or did we get both those coaches? I don't even know. I didn't even take a look at him if he had said he accepted or not, but all right, Ristolainen has accepted. Nice, okay, and Kolarz. So both of them are back at the money that they wanted, which is good to see. What does McLeod want for a long-term contract? Wow. Okay, maybe we have to qualify him a little bit longer, but his contract is probably going to get more and more expensive. The thing that's... I could just give him a full-on no-trade clause instead, but that doesn't help that organizational interest. I don't know if I could go much lower than what he's wanting right now. I mean, we are going to be losing Kolarz and Ristolainen to retirement probably. This would lock up McLeod for the rest of the series, so... Let's jump this up a little bit, because I feel like it's a bit low for that he would not accept it. Let's do 14 million for 7. It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but McLeod is on the uprise. I think he's a future Norris winner, potentially, so we'll sign him $14 million for 7 years if he wants that. It's going to take a lot of our cap space, but he's pretty much one of the most important players going forward, I'd say. And will he accept that money is the question. Please accept it, my boy. He rejected it at that value. We might have to qualify him. How long until he's an UFA, out of curiosity? Because we only have 3 years left of the series. So 1 year, he'd still be an RFA. So that's with 2 years left. Yeah, he would be a UFA near the end of the series if I don't re-sign him for multiple years. So maybe I should try and get him on a shorter term deal in 7 years. Like maybe a 5-year deal. And then but then it would be more money. Maybe I'll just give him what he's asking for, to be honest. You know, I'm just going to give him what he's asking for. I just don't want to deal with having to try and re-sign him like right at the end of the series and then him asking for like $20+ million, kind of like Tuzolino did at one point. So let's see if McLeod will accept that money. Looks like he did. Nice. Okay. Well, that's good. It is a little bit more money than I would like, but $21 million to sign these 5 RFAs. I think I'm going to let go of Malak. Yeah, how much money did he want? I'm trying to think realistically. 1.2 million. That would basically put us down to $20 million in cap space with these guys to sign. I think I'm going to let go of Malak just for the time being at least. I think it's okay to do that, so we'll do that. I should have actually saluted Philip Malak because he's been here a long time, but we need to make sure we have the cap space for the unsigned or the RFAs right now. Because I feel like Robertson, what is he asking for right now? Yeah, Robertson's already asking for $6 million. Petterman might ask for $4 million. So I feel like we're going to be pretty tight on cap space at the moment. So let's already sim to free agency and see how much money we got and if any of those RFAs accept already. But I don't know if I'll bring back any former players to this team or not this offseason. So Reefers accepts his qualifying offer. Same with Hansen. That's good at least. So 2 of the bottom 6 options. Did our coach not accept? Because I don't know if I saw that or not. Let me go to coaching staff here. No, they both did. Okay, good. I thought I only saw one coach, so I was kind of confused on that. All right, let me take a look at the contracts now here. $20.38 million. We have just these 3 guys to sign. Shouldn't be too bad. But like I said, this is probably going to cost us like $4 million each on these guys around, my guess. Carl Lottie's going to be the cheapest, obviously. So we probably do have cap space, but I don't know if we really need anything for this roster. We obviously have our goaltending tandem locked up. Defensively, we have Bell, Hutton, McLeod, Hunwick, Johnston. Ooh, and Petterman's an RFA. Carl Lottie's an RFA. Okay, we're good defensively, I think, because Johnston could be a 7th D for us. That's not a huge problem. Or he could play in the lineup on the defensive core, and then we move McLeod back to forward. So we should be okay with defense. Like, right, wow, 1, 2. And then if Johnson's playing, let's just say 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we might use Seagal as a 70, but he's a 74. Which is not great. He is still listed as a depth defenseman now. So I don't know if we really need a depth defender, to be honest, or not. I'm probably going to move McLeod back to forward again. Which means, let's just say we have McLeod as a forward. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with Doughty. Maybe Dingle gets in as an 8th. 9 with Cashman, 10, 11, 12, 13 with Cogliano, 14. Yeah, I think we're good on forwards too. I don't think there's any former players that are going to be worth bringing back to this organization anyways, but let's take a look just for fun. And we'll look for an assistant coach. A goalie coach we already have, I think, so I think we don't really need to do too much before we actually get to the start of next season and setting up our lines and all that. So, in terms of goalies, is there any former guys that used to play here? Not that I need a new backup goalie. I'm just curious. Oh, there's Harakala is back in free agency. I don't really need another goalie. We already have 3 in the AHL and all that. Harakala was dreadful last year in Detroit. Only had 3 wins through 27 starts. I mean, Detroit probably wasn't a good team, but interesting to see Harakala back in free agency. He hasn't played in the NHL playoffs since he was with us. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, nobody probably else. In terms of defensemen, any former defenders that we haven't seen in a while? Does not look like it. At least not off the top of my head here. Alright. Oh, there's Lee. Lee's a 78 now, damn. He's pretty low. Where was he playing last season? Pittsburgh. Interesting. Pittsburgh, Montreal, Washington. And then us, of course. Huh. Shout out to Jordan Lee. Former Stanley Cup champion Jordan Lee. Maybe that's what we need to win another Stanley Cup, is him back. Offensively, any former players? I don't think really any of these guys I need, to be honest, though. Maybe some of them will be still start there at the start of the season. We could bring them back. Okay, Del Monte, 82 at 35. That's kind of interesting. He is listed as a second line forward, though. And he did just come off a 56-point season, so he is still very solid offensively, Cade. But I don't think he's anything I need. Especially at that price point for an 82, it's kind of high a little bit. So I don't think he's worth bringing back. Even though he would make us stronger. Because I just let go of Malak for the same reasons, as I don't feel like we need Malak back. So I think both those guys are just going to go sign with somebody else, probably. And then finally, centers. Is there any former centers? Any former centers or anybody I recognize? Not off the top of my head either. I feel like a lot of the former players that we used to have are retired, or they're like already signed to a contract on another team. All right. Let's get ourselves an assistant coach, because that's another important thing to do. Because we want to make sure that we have a good coaching staff going into next season again, because obviously that will give us a better chance to win. We already have a good head coach. The associate coach is good as well. Just need a nice assistant coach here. If there's anybody, I will just take any coach, even if they're not listed as assistant. But anybody with a good fit for our team. 56% on Krejci. I feel like I've had Krejci before, maybe? No, maybe not. I do recognize Krejci from somewhere, I think. Yeah, I think we'll bring in Krejci as the assistant. Maybe he can help us play better defensively, too. So, let's bring him in. Even though he's listed as a head coach, we'll try and get him as assistant. And I think that's all we really need for coaching staff. So let's just get Krejci signed on up here. We do need an assistant coach in the AHL, but to me, the AHL, almost at this point, I don't really know if we need to really worry about an assistant coach. Yeah, I don't think it's as important right now. Maybe at the start of the season I'll look for it, but Krejci's the only coach I'm going to sign up here. I don't really care about bringing in 2 scouts, even though we have 2 slots available. I just think at this point, the drafts aren't as important as they used to be, but we still have a lot of scouts anyway, so we should be fine. Is there anything else we need to do before we get the sim to next season? We could do some off-season focuses, but I feel like it's, at this point, a lot of these guys are what they are, so I don't really feel like I need to develop in anything or improve anything. Let's just sim up to next season and get set up and see what our lines are looking like. So Krejci's on board. He likes the generous financial compensation, so welcome aboard as our assistant coach. And I'm excited to see what this team's looking like next season, because obviously it's a little weird without Norena, but at the same time, it's not a huge issue. And like I said, moving McLeod back to forward, I think, is probably something we're going to do again, just to give us that depth a bit. We do have some RFAs accepting our contracts right now. Let's stop the Sims so we can sign some of them again, because we're already into August. Damn, that simulated faster than I anticipated. Let's see. We should be able to forward to the rest of these dudes. We have $20 million in cap space. Only Robertson and Petterman. Let's see. Robertson, just take the 4.9 at this point, man. And Petterman, what are you wanting? $6 million. Damn, Petterman's wanting more money than anticipated. He is a pending UFA at the end of the year. That kind of sucks. 2 years he doesn't very much like that much. Maybe I could drop this down. I do feel like we need to have Petterman signed because our defensive core is going to go weak here before the series ends. So maybe I'll just do an extra year on this deal. Let's go with the 2-year deal for Petterman, see if we can get him for multiple years. I just want to make sure that I don't have a weak defensive core in the final year, because if we have a defensive core that's like full of scrubs, it's not going to look very good. So I just want that defense strong as possible here. So Petterman accepts the 2-year extension, so that's a nice little deal. It might be a bit of a bargain. I'm not too sure. I feel like he would have asked for more next season anyways, so that way he isn't going to be just walking to free agency within a year. That way at least we get him for these 2 of these last 3 seasons. So let's get the lineup set up, see what we're working with here. So we're already going to take McLeod out of the defensive core here. Even though he is a pretty solid defenseman on this defensive core, I'm going to take him out. We're going to throw Johnston in. And then we're going to go off to offense here. And I'm going to take Enroth out. Wow, Cogliano jumped to an 85. Holy shit, man. I mean, that might be just for preseason, but goddamn. Was not expecting that. Who could take face-offs? I guess Kopitz can, but he's a third-line scoring forward, so he probably should be there. Who's actually a good face-off taker down there? Reefers is the best. Okay, we'll use Reefers as that center. Enroth will come out at the lineup probably, though, here. And we'll throw, obviously, McLeod in. So we got to move McLeod up to there, which means Kopitz is going to have to be a 4th-line guy regardless. So let's go this. And then we'll move McLeod up to the 2nd line, Delisle to the 3rd line. We'll swap Risto and Cashman. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that could work. Cogliano and Robertson are both very good. And they're both grinders, which is interesting. Cogliano, though, grew a lot because he had the entire year in the AHL as an elite guy. So this is a kind of a nice little addition to our lineup in terms of making it strong offensively. So I'm kind of glad what we let go of the players that we did. But yeah, we are pretty strong in our top 9. Like, we might honestly want to use McLeod more as a defenseman in that sense. I'm not too sure. Because currently scratched for forward. Stillman is still a forward that should probably not be scratched. So I probably will send him to the AHL. Enroth is okay to be a depth option. We'll see what else we have for depth forwards. Maybe there's some former guys that we could bring back. But from a defensive standpoint, let's readjust this a bit here. So we'll go with Hunwick and Bell. Second pairing, we'll go Hutton and Petterman, and it'll be Carlotti and Johnston, even though they're both right-handed defensemen. And then from a goalie perspective, Giunta and Mather still. All right, so let's just do some roster management here. Also, we'll set up the power plays and all that too still. But let's go down to here. We are going to send down Stillman because he's going to complain. We're going to call up... Wow, Dingle's actually a depth forward pretty much, right? 4th line forward. Damn, Dingle probably should be playing this year. But I think 1 year in the AHL is okay. Krejcik is how old at this point? 23. He's kind of at that make or break point. We'll call him up as one of the depth options. Oh, Hansen. Damn, I didn't realize Hansen was down there too. Hansen probably should be up here too as a depth forward. So I'll call up both those guys. Send Stillman down. Let's go best AHL lines for a second here. Do we need any other depth options? I don't remember here. Let's see. We have 3 forwards that are depth forwards, so I probably should send down Hansen. Or do I want to keep Krejcik in the AHL? I feel like maybe I want to keep Krejcik in the AHL so he doesn't complain. I mean, he's not going to complain, I don't think, but he needs to get ice time somewhere. So probably the AHL is actually a good spot for him. So we'll send him back down. And we will call up from the AHL as that other depth option. We'll call up a depth defenseman. We'll probably go with... We'll maybe go with Saul Young. Maybe. Because there is Seagal, but he's not that great. There is also Nold, but Nold's a good potential prospect, so no. Seagal is actually listed as a depth defender, though. Did he play any games with us last season? No, he did not. He was scratched the entire year. He's not very good defensively either. You know, I think I'm going to go with Young as the other depth defender. Or as the actual depth defenseman. So we'll go with that. We'll go best AHL lines again. So now in terms of our power play setup, let's get this, make sure that's accurate. So first line in Dunham, Risto, Kolars. Johnson is not going to be on this power play. This is going to be instead the power play for Ryder McLeod. There you go. That makes it an even 0. That's nice. Second unit, Hunwick, Kopitz, Comrie, Robertson, Cashman. -4 on this unit? God damn, how is this a -4? Damn, that might be one of the worst chemistries I've seen. Maybe I should move somebody like Cashman to the first unit then. Risto is kind of dropping off, so if I move Cashman to unit number 1, and then I move Risto to unit number 2, is that going to help anything at all? Or no? -3, it does improve a little bit, but something is not great about that power play. I'm not too sure what. Let me see. Let's go scratch players. Or not scratch players. Who's somebody that should be maybe on the power play that isn't? Delisle was already on the power play, I think. We don't really have a lot of good players that are power play players. Most of the guys are grinders and two-ways. So I kind of understand why that power play chemistry is not the best on that second unit here. You know what? I think we're going to just honestly run with it, even though it's a -3. I think we had that same issue last year, if I remember right. We'll also go to power play line number 1 here. We'll take Johnston off this one. And once again, this will be the power play for McLeod. So that should be good. Second unit here, we will keep the rest of that the same. Penalty kill, let's see what this looks like. Robertson, Dunham. I don't know why Robertson's on the first unit. I don't mind it. What about second unit, Cogliano, Kolars? They don't have Risto on the penalty kill. I think Risto needs to be on the penalty kill. He's just that guy, so we'll put him on the penalty kill. Robertson could be on the penalty kill instead of Kolars. Kolars is not a penalty killer, really, in my eyes. So we'll go with Robertson and Cogliano. And then we'll go Cashman, Doughty on that last unit. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Extra lines, we don't really care too much. Goalies are good. Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, perfect. So that's probably what our lineup is going to look like going into the season. I got to take a look at the team fit and see if this coach is actually the right one for us. But interesting lineup. I do expect some guys to drop throughout the lineup. Like eventually at some point, Risto could be our third line center if he's not doing enough as a top line guy, because Cashman does produce. Comrie was good last season. Yeah, Comrie was really good last season, actually, for that matter. So, yeah, there's a good chance Risto could be closer to the bottom 6 by the end of the season. Now, Kopitz might lose morale because of ice time is one thing that's a little bit worrisome. Is he on the power play, did I say? I think he is, right? Yeah, he is. So maybe he's okay with it. Maybe he is. But yeah, that's an issue we got to look into. In terms of the AHL, any guys need to be in the lineup that shouldn't be scratched. Let's see. Bergforce is the only one, and there's no way I could get him in here. Bachman's already a 77 medium elite, and then we have Andronov, who's also medium elite. And then obviously Bergforce is medium elite, so we'll just have to wait and see if there's any injuries where Bachman gets called up and then Bergforce could get in. Aside from that, everybody's probably in a good enough spot here. Let's move Hartman up because he's got the elite potential. Yeah, we'll go with that. Wow, this AHL team actually looks pretty strong. Jankumovs is going to get a chance to play with a pretty stacked lineup, so that might help him out a little bit here. We'll move Krejcik over to the wing instead because he's not as good at face-offs. And then defensively, we'll move Knoll to the top unit because he's got high potential. Aside from that, nobody else really needs to move up. Perfect. That is all good. Hopefully a good year for Dingle, considering he's playing with Stillman and Wall. Hopefully the AHL, a lot of the prospects get growth, and that helps us out a bit too with the last few years of this franchise mode. All right, final few things we got to take a look at. Let's go to the coaching staff, see our coaching fit. See how good this Bielis is for us this season. I think he's a good fit last year, right? 66% this year. A little bit lower than last year, I think, because I think last year he was over 70. Let's demote him for just a temporary thing, just to see what Nielsen and stuff fits like. I don't think anybody else is going to be our head coach, but Nielsen's a 64. so he's probably good to be an associate. Krejci, who we just signed, is a 63, so probably just good to be an assistant. So I think our coaching staff is going to stay the exact same as last season, except for Krejci comes in for whichever coach it was that retired last episode. And then Hayduk is our goalie coach. We have an AHL head coach and associate coach. We could find an AHL assistant coach, but I'm not too sure if it's a thing that I need to necessarily do. If we go AHL head coach, is there anybody that could fit our AHL team good? 68% on that first guy. Okay, that first guy is going to come in as maybe a head coach for the AHL, but we're going to assign him as an assistant for the start of it. Maybe he becomes the head coach in next episode if I remember. So Palat, come on in. That's all good. Anything else we need to do? Actually, maybe I'll see if he'll accept already, because we are right before the preseason. So what does Bielis got to say about our roster going into the season out of curiosity, though? Let's set some clear goals. Let's just do the preseason focus here first. Let's do some conditioning, maybe. I'm trying to think if we should do conditioning, because we are an older team at this point. Yeah, let's do a conditioning, because our team is older at this point. We might need that extra speed. So I know it's something that we don't really do, but we'll try it out. And what does he say is our season goal? He thinks we're good enough to compete for the cup this year again. So who knows? Maybe this team will be able to make it back to a finals again before the series ends. So there is that. We'll also advance a few more days just to see if that AHL coach accepts. There you go. He does accept. I want to see if he's actually a better fit for our AHL team than the current head coach as well, because we want to make sure our AHL players are getting the right growth. So Herbis, who is originally our AHL head coach, let's see his fit, 68% on him too. All right. Buzik, who is an assistant coach or an associate coach, is a 64. And then Palat, who we just signed, is also a 68. So we'll move Buzik down to assistant. Palat is a head coach. I want to see the chemistry on that, for instance, just to see if it's a lot better than it was with Herbis. And then maybe we have a new AHL head coach that could help the development of the prospects a bit more. Considering they're the same, maybe we'll deal with this. So looks pretty good offensively. Defensively, not great on that top six pairing, but these aren't prospects of mine. These are just filler players that they signed us, I think. Oh, actually, Lebda's a forward. I forgot about Lebda. I didn't realize Lebda was on the defensive side of things. That's not great, but might be the only way I get him into the lineup, so we'll just leave it. Might be the only way. Let me go back to those coaches for a second. Who has the better teaching grade of those two AHLers? Let's see, Palat or Herbis? Teaching grade, it would be Herbis. Influence, it would be Herbis as well. So I guess Palat will be the assistant coach. Herbis will be the head coach again still. I don't mind that. A little bit of a stronger AHL coaching staff. Could find ourselves a goalie coach, but I don't think the goalie coaches are super mandatory for the AHL. So there is that. Anything else we need to do before we finish off this episode? I don't think so. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we will simulate through the 2045-46 season. We'll see if this team makes it back to the playoffs or not, and if so, how long will they make it for? Sensing down below, and I'll see you guys next time.